you can tell us.
All right, hot mic now. Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delays. It was me this time, waking up late. So, ladies, good morning, and thank you so much for your time and coming on the show.
Thank you.
So, I am thrilled to have the Honorable Veletta Forsyth Lill on the show again. You may have remembered her back with Fair Park.
2018.
Yes, Fair Park First during the state fair. So we were at a different location, and today I am joined with Marcel Quimby, and we're going to talk about historic preservation and what exactly does that mean in the city of Dallas, and what does that mean, especially for our beloved IMPay City Hall. So, ladies, thank you again for coming on. Marcel, since you're brand new,
Okay.
just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and then we'll just jump right into the topic.
Sure. I'm an architect. I have been my entire life, it seems. And I now specialize in historic buildings.
Okay.
And preservation architecture.
Nice.
Yes.
Dallas does have quite a bit of history still standing around. Although Dallas is known for knocking things down, unfortunately. And the Honorable Veletta here, she has been front and center with saving our city hall.
Well,
It's amazing that we're having this conversation because no one could have told me ever that we would think about getting rid of our city hall. Especially with it coming up so close to being 50 years in age.
exactly.
So, since you're a former city council member, kind of walk us through what does it take in order to, submit this application to start looking at getting landmark recognition?
Well, I want to say
Yes,
that
ma'am.
Marcel this very week received from the American Institute of Architects the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Congratulations!
So, Marcel, we are.
Thank you so
We are
much.
Congratulations! Yes.
I am sorry you missed it.
I know
It
this
was
little
so
knee
much
problem
fun.
has kept me from being there and cheering for you. But
It was
Marcel
great.
and I've been
was really
co-conspirators for a while. We're actually neighbors. We live about
Okay.
3 blocks apart.
Yep.
I think.
Yep.
3
So
blocks.
does that make me a baby conspirator? I'm a
Yeah.
conspirator in training.
That's right.
You're going
And
to
we
learn
need
about
that.
how to do that today.
Yes,
We
great.
need them. But I'm gonna because Marcel has worked a lot on the actual designation report.
Okay.
I'm gonna let her talk to you about it. But I'm gonna frame some of this in saying that we often look at buildings and they're old and we say it's historic.
Yes.
And it is to all of us that are looking at it. But in order to be officially historic, it must be designated at a city, state, or federal level.
Yes.
And at a state and federal level, it's more honorific and that sort of thing.
Right.
But at a city level, it carries much more weight in terms of its protection.
Okay, great.
And it's also a longer process that we go through. So there's actually going through the background of the building, etc. And Marcel will talk about that. Most of the time when we're designating historic buildings, they are 50 years or older.
Okay.
That's one of the criteria.
Okay.
You can designate a building prior to its 50th birthday, and there are criteria for that. Interestingly enough, the one, the building at I-35 and Mockingbird that looks kind of, what was a Pegasus building, I think, years ago, it was Magnolia Oil.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And it was also concrete. We designated that one before its 50th, so it could also get some tax credits. It became housing
Yeah.
for seniors.
Yeah.
So there are times when we designated before 50
Okay.
years.
Okay.
So it's not super unusual. So
Well, is it okay to start
Yeah,
that process before the actual 50th birthday?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want people to be clear and understand that it's okay to start getting your ducks in a row, so to speak.
Right, and it's the first step you need to do is really understand the historic, importance of a building. Is it just a cool building? Did something special happen there? Is it
Right.
a unique architectural style, or was it done by one of the master architects?
Okay.
And that, if you can answer yes to any of those questions, you're in a good place.
Okay, very good.
So for there's a process that you have to go through the city to designate a building. And the first step is, as owner or an interested party, it needs to be initiated, which is step number one. And that's a process where, basic information about the building and its importance,
Okay.
and who the owner is, and that sort of stuff needs to be presented to Landmark Commission as for the step of initiation. And at that point in time, once it goes to Landmark, the city will send a letter out to the owner, if the initiator is not the owner, to
Okay.
let them know that the
Hey,
building,
this process is
this process is beginning. And some owners think that's great, and some owners do not like that.
I can imagine so.
But you want to flush that out in the beginning. You don't want to get way down the path where everybody's invested lots of time and effort and research and discussion, and then to be told, the owner doesn't want to do it.
Right. So that brings up a very interesting point with City Hall, because this was started in 2023, correct?
It was actually it was initiated in October, actually, I think, last fall.
Okay.
It went through the initiation, and there was some legal concerns about, how many names were on it, and, who could sign that and stuff. And so that stopped, and then it came back, and I think it was last October.
Okay.
It was reinitiated.
Okay.
So
okay.
then, so after initiation, it goes to the Landmark Committee, Landmark Designation Committee. And I have served on that committee for more decades than I really want to admit.
That's fine.
And
Good to have such a knowledgeable person there. Yes.
Yeah. And so the committee meets once a month, and it's our job to review the designations, many designations that are developer or, have developer or maybe owners have done the documentation and have done the report, and others need our help. So we as a committee will help people on this. And particularly on, let me go back to just the general process. So generally, it's, if somebody comes in with a completed designation report, that's great, and the process happens earlier, faster. If we have to, as the designation committee participants.
Well, you're reviewing it for its completeness, making sure that all of the historic worthy information is validated. I'm assuming.
Right. The information you want to see is, a narrative of, who the owner was, what type of building it was, the changes over time, how much integrity it has. For example, if the building started out as a nice little craftsman house, but then they added a 3-story addition and painted it purple, we may not be, we may have a problem with the integrity.
Okay.
We will have a problem with that integrity. So it needs to kind of, bear, most of the original features, and then some, some of the features can be reversible. We see houses that they've screened in the porch, or they've enclosed the porch for a bedroom, and if the rest of the house is great and looks changed and pretty much looks like it originally did, we can say, well, that's reversible. Maybe a future owner will tear that out, and it shouldn't stop the designation from going through.
Okay, that is very good to know. I have been on a quest with my great-great-grandmother who founded Kirkwood Temple on 67th, and it actually started in the house that I'm in And cousin mine told me the information is at the church. She is potentially the first female minister and the first black female minister in the city of Dallas.
That's
So
cool.
yes, I
That would be
definitely
great.
want to get that
Yes.
designation for the house. So that is very good to know. We have not changed anything other than it has ugly siding, which I am pro. Take that off.
That would be good.
That would be
Yes.
good.
Really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So the neighborhood, so if I can, so,
Yes, yes,
so
yes.
the other things that, will need to be included in the report is, is it in an area that's historic, or is it out by itself? And then, so there's history of the ownership, history of the building, why, when it was built, what changes were made. And so all of that needs to be done in a narrative way, and then obviously, summarized as this is why this building is significant.
Okay.
Landmark. And then the second piece of the landmark designation process, key items that need to be submitted is preservation criteria. The city of Dallas has a standard preservation criteria that says what you should do and what you shouldn't do to a building.
okay.
And for example, it'll say windows. Well, the windows that are wood and they're historic need to remain in place.
Okay.
So future owners can pull those out
Okay.
and replace those with something else.
Oh, okay. With more modern.
Yeah, with more modern.
Okay.
And they, some buildings have a built-in color palette included, some buildings don't, and that's just determined on appropriateness.
Okay.
And that will be reviewed at Landmark Commission. So it goes through the designation process. If the committee approves it, then it kicks up to Landmark for review. And this, and then the report goes to each of the Landmark Commissioners, and they discuss that at a meeting.
Okay.
And if it passes at Landmark Commission, the next step is to go to the City Planning Commission.
Okay.
Because you're actually changing the zoning.
Really?
Yeah, because you'll have, if you're residential zoning, it'll be, whatever zoning is H, which means
for
it's
the
historic. Which
Okay.
means that not only do you follow the guidelines of, whatever zoning group, category you're
Yes.
in, but there may be, but these are the additional things that will be required.
Okay. I did not know
Yes, yeah, and so, if you look in zoning maps, you'll see such and such, R15, R30, whatever.
Right. Or
You know,
75.
Yeah, class, R75 dash H, and that
Okay.
means it's a city of Dallas landmark,
that.
which
Okay.
is a good thing.
That is a good
Yeah.
thing.
And CPC really doesn't look at the content because, Landmark's done that, but they just kind of review that, and then it goes to city council.
Okay.
And typically they approve things.
Yes.
I-
I haven't heard any
I just
fights
think it's
over this. Yes.
I think it's important to say that when the designation report is being prepared, the criteria are things like significant events for the city happened in this building, etc. So I always think of buildings as having constituencies.
Yes.
They have people who, their grandparents were married there, their grandmother lived in the house.
Yes.
She was important in the history of the house. So buildings have constituencies, and City Hall is unique in having a very broad constituency.
Yes.
In other words,
Yes, yeah.
everybody who may have worked there, everybody who may have been held elected office.
Right.
There have been significant visits to that institution. Let's say a president was in town or something like that. So it's all the events are kind of cumulative, and that's part of the report. Oh, in 1948 or 78 or whatever, this thing happened in this place.
Okay.
And I think we need 3 of the criteria of the 10 to be.
Yeah, there's 10 criteria and we need many more.
We need many more than
Yeah.
this.
Okay.
But
But I think it's very interesting to talk about the cumulative history and not just the history of the building itself or the architect or the
Right.
design of it. So I want everyone to understand that it is the totality of it, and really looking at it from, for me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, a communal review and oversight, or taking that type of look and saying how significant this has been over time for all of us, especially when you're talking about a city-owned building.
Right.
But even with the house, just, I talked to Peter Johnson, and he remembers my great-great-grandmother, and it worked with them during the civil rights movement. So, making
Right.
sure all of those details are fleshed out so people understand why it's so significant and important.
And that is such a big part of it, I think, and that goes back to my buildings have constituencies. I was on the council when we designated St. Anne's School, which is now a restaurant that you enjoy your brunches at.
Yes.
But when it was built, it was affiliated with the Catholic Church, and it was built for families of Mexican American descent who were fleeing the revolution from Mexico.
Okay.
And so, because we had segregated schools, many of those folks were educated in that school.
Okay.
And so, they had, when we came forward to start to do the designation, the Catholic Church was not in favor of it, but all the families that had their grandparents,
Yes.
and it was an important sort of cementing institution in that area, which was at that time called Little Mexico.
Right.
So a lot of the businesses were owned by people who went to school in that area, etc. So there was a collective, as you say, and it's similar for City Hall. It's very much about, why is this building important to me?
Right.
Architecturally, this may be the most significant one. I did the designation on Franklin Wright Theater on the Kalina Humphreys, which is extremely
Yes.
important too.
Yes.
Yes,
And then
and this will probably be the second most important.
this would be
Yeah.
probably the second most important of the
Yes.
buildings that we
And
have.
we're going to get into those details, but yes, continue.
So it's just important. It's our collective memory as a community. Buildings often have that.
Yes.
You go by and you go,
I remember.
I remember.
Yes.
In some of these places, it's somebody was married there, somebody went there for a prom, somebody went there for a school dance, and this sort of thing. But this being the seat of government, you
Very
literally have significant,
Yes.
very significant events going on there. I mean, I've been there for everything from a memorial for fallen officers
Yes.
out on the plaza,
Yes.
to the Beach Boys playing,
Yes.
to
BMW race.
so many of the races.
Yes.
And
The turkey
The
drive.
turkey trot, even Team Dog for Mayor made sure the intern was able. And what you don't know, Team Dog for Mayor got into the pool.
oh,
Yes, and she did not want to get out of the pool, and politely dipped her head several times with her hoodie on, and she's like, "But it's my pool." So, Mom, what are you talking about? Yes, so a lot of significance.
so she is now a constituent
Very
of
much,
City Hall.
very much so. She used to run with me downtown, and we would always run by her building because she wants to put eyes on it.
She wants to make
That's
sure it's
great.
there.
Yes,
Good taste.
yes, she does. She has good taste.
Well, and today there will be a
Oh, the
march,
Real
there will be a
Kings
rally.
Yes,
Right.
And frequently you have that's the place where people go to
Yeah.
protest, because it's not like somebody's gonna rent you a place to protest.
no.
You need to go to your public spaces to
Yes.
do your,
And
to
that's
do
the seat of the
protest.
government here in Dallas.
Right.
Right, and it has been for 47 years. years.
Yes, it has. And so just as a original Dallasite and being almost 6, so I'm giving away my age here, when the building was completed. And I talked about during the Echo Development Committee how I used to stare at the phone books back then because they would have scenes of Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, I would, go through and look at the people and, of course at that time I hadn't gone downtown and actually seen the building, but just to know that that was there during my lifetime and to know that it's such a fixture in Dallas since all of this has happened. When I'm in the car with my daughter, I frequently take pictures of the building from the backside, from the side, just to show how much is part of the landscape of downtown Dallas.
And I co-founded something called Aurora, which is a large outdoor art exhibition that's light and technology based.
Yes.
And we use City Hall as a backdrop.
Yeah.
And it's really special.
And it makes it's
Yeah.
super special
It's
to
great.
see
It's really cool.
that illuminated and people wandering around and literally interacting with the building because it's part of the artwork.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's an opportunity for them to interact with the building
Yes.
on the exterior.
Yes. So one thing I do want to comment about, because Rudy Karimi, he's a park board member for District 14, and he was on with John Bodefor, and we were just kind of having a roundtable discussion about, hot topics with City Council. And Rudy brought up a great point, that if we demolish this building and the history that goes with it, where does it stop? And Fair Park could become up for grabs if someone decides to dangle a carrot out there large enough. And John is very pro get rid of City Hall, redevelop it. And it's kind of like, well, why not with Fair Park? And he's like, no, that's just too unique. And it's like,
Well, that's,
hello, it's not City Hall.
I think too unique
And
is the
special.
exact moniker for it. Too unique.
Yes. So, I get people think that it's not a very pleasant looking building, but architecture isn't always about, what's pleasing to the eye or the aesthetics. It has created a very unique look for Dallas.
it is, and it's Dallas is, that and City Hall and the Magnolia Lounge are two priceless icons of the
Yes.
city of Dallas. Everybody knows those images. And if you start tearing those down, you're right. Where does that go? And what does it say about how a city values its own city?
Yes. And I spoke with a former employee about this whole situation, and he brought up a very good point that this building is part of the brand of Dallas.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So
I like that.
Yeah.
where do you go from there if you move away from something that's so iconic with your brand? And when people think Dallas, they think the old show and our Dallas skyline. That would include Reunion Arena
Right.
and City Hall. And what I don't want to imagine Dallas without its City Hall. Even the library, because I remember when it was built and frequented there, still frequent the building. And to just see that gone would be like a hole in the heart of the city.
And I say you can make mistakes in public policy and you evaluate them and you go back and you fine tune public policy. You can't make a mistake in demolishing a building. It's gone forever.
Right.
It
Right.
It doesn't it doesn't get rebuilt, it doesn't,
No.
although if you've ever gone to some place like Germany, like I went to Dresden, and where these buildings had been bombed, and literally the ladies for years were out front sort of cleaning bricks.
Oh, yes.
And
Poland and all.
and
that
Poland
Germany
and many
and
of the
that whole
places
part of
were
it,
heavily
yeah.
bombed in Europe. They went through to try to save as much of what had
The
been.
structures.
Because, they
yes.
had been kicked out of their homes and lost their homes, and the fact that they had lost their city was, well, where do we return to?
Right.
You know, I grew up here with my parents, we went to this church, and those are all gone, and what does the city represent, and our family represent?
Right.
If there's
Nothing there.
if there's nothing there. So
Right.
the citizens, like you said, and after World War II, picked up and moved bricks around and stone around and figured out where pieces needed to go back, trying to rebuild towns. So they had not lost anything. It was recreated exactly how it was before World War II.
People really realize how much that impacts us as a species.
When you're traveling in Europe and you see these townhomes, I mean, my son and daughter-in-law live in Girona, Spain, and I think that townhome, let me see that, is 1645. So it's not like it aged out.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
They're proud of it.
And they're
you know?
proud of it,
Yeah.
and it has on the
They don't-
keystone
they don't
1645, you know?
And that's why we travel. That's why we go to other places to see what's unique.
Yes, and talk
And
about
that's-
traveling.
When you talk about Dallas, that's it.
Right, yes, and we love our tourists here in Dallas. Visit Dallas, does a great job of marketing the city. So keeping the landmark, keeping the icon of Dallas is very important. So if you're just tuning in, I have the Honorable Veletta, Forsyth, Lill, and Marcel Quimby, an architect who works with preservation of historic landmarks here in the city. It just says a lot to make sure that we have our history still around. I mean, we still have the Butler Building, which was part of very early downtown Dallas when the train or the trolley used to run through there. The Piggly Wiggly around the corner is still standing over by BPA, the Dallas Police Association building. So those stories need to continue. And I will say, so with the protections that come along with preservation and having the designation, it's one thing that I have always wondered about. And so I'm going to talk about Park Row and South Boulevard. Because I remember one house, it was very dilapidated, and it eventually got knocked down, and I felt a bit of pain when that happened, and I was hoping that they would rebuild the house. They did not. Ever bought the lot, put up a new structure. And there was one house that I wanted to purchase, and it caught on fire. And I said, if I'm ever in the position to buy the lot, I would want to recreate that home just for the aesthetics of the neighborhood. And that is a historic neighborhood, but what are the protections that come along with a building or a home getting landmark recognition?
So once you're landmarked, if you want to make any changes to the exterior, you've got to have approval through the task forces for the neighborhood or the building, and then landmark commission. And this is to make, and those are the groups that review things and make sure it's consistent with the historic character of either the building itself or the other buildings in the district.
Okay.
Because, so if you were to come with your imaginary wonderful Tudor home and want to paint the bricks, black and white stripes, they would not let you do that. but they would also not let your neighbor do it.
Right.
And that's really important. That's one thing people don't understand.
Okay, so it's helping to maintain the character.
Right, helping to maintain the character of the house, and if it's in the district, you know,
Yeah.
all the, you know, you want to be consistently maintained with everybody else.
Okay, so what about tearing down a structure that has the designation? And I would say, so with South Boulevard and Park Road, just going back to that as an example, it is the neighborhood that has that designation. I don't think the particular homes
Right.
have.
It's the entire.
Yes, it's the neighborhood.
Yeah, the neighborhood has a designation, and then there are two types of properties within each neighborhood. The most will be what we call contributing to the historic, you know, district. And then there's non-contributing. So if you have a home that's non-contributing, maybe it was built in 1980, you know, or it's been torn down or really changed, or a fire hits it. Those are, you know, easier to get demolition permits for within the district. And then when you build on those, it has to be compatible. It doesn't want, actually, it doesn't even want to match what was there before, because you don't want to imitate a 1930 building in 2016. But you want to do something that's consistent. So it may look Tudor, and I always tell people, you know, the difference between, you know, building that's similar and rebuilding that's identical is that my mom could walk by in the street or somebody else and go, well, that's a little different, you know. And so you can gradually understand that that's a new interpretation of the historic. But it doesn't, you know, it's not jarring as to your eyes.
It blends in.
It blends in. And so that's, you know, those are the two ways you can do that. And then if it's a historic building, you know, those can, there's 4 criteria under which circumstances you could demolish a historic building. One, if it's been so badly damaged that it's about to fall down.
Usually a fire.
Yeah,
or,
you know, if it's structurally a problem. And a fire, somebody that's, you know, just let it go and nobody's, you know,
ever done any maintenance or
ever done any
maintaining?
maintenance, or, you know, I've been in buildings in all sorts of districts in Dallas where, you know, somebody's not repaired the roof in 15 years. You know, and then the back wall fell down. Well, surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise.
If it's discovered that the building is actually not contributing, because mistakes happen. We've got some districts here that have, you know, 800 homes, you know, so if it's listed as contributing and it's obviously not, that's another reason. And what's the fourth?
The other one is if something is more culturally significant than what is there. And I will give you an example where we permitted the loss of a historic structure. And that was many of the underpasses that you see around, and you remember you had one in Deep Ellum that was painted. And it was all part of 1920s, I think, Ulrichsen plan, which was sort of an update to our infrastructure. And it was important to the community in terms of it being painted and murals were on it and that sort of thing. But it was also important it was part of an infrastructure update in the 1920s. DART wanted to come through. And so the decision had to be made. They said, we're going to have to take out this tunnel in order for...
And flatten out the road.
And flatten out the road. And we were like, no, really can't do that, but let's take a look at it. What happened was, if most people know who William Sidney Pittman was, who is our most famous African-American architect, Booker T. Washington's son-in-law. he designed several of the buildings along that route.
Yes.
The one that's over in the Meadows area.
Yes.
It's owned by Meadows.
And
The
Knights
other
of Hyde.
being
The Knights of Pythias.
the Knights of Pythias, which
Yes.
is now the hotel. The
Yes.
Pittman. So essentially, Pittman trumped Ulrichsen, I guess is the way you would. It was more culturally significant to protect,
Yes.
because what they were going to do was run it through there, and it would have a negative impact on the William Sidney Pittman.
Those two buildings would face onto a ramp.
Right.
You know, where you had started down to go underneath the tunnel and back up, and that's not what you want for those. That's not appropriate.
Right.
For those.
Right. I would think structurally it would compromise the integrity of the building with the
Yeah, it
Oh,
would.
yeah. Well, you'd walk out and you'd have to immediately take a left or a right because, you're right at the edge of, a tunnel.
Right.
Right, and the vibration of the tunnel would have impacts, etc. So the decision was, as you know it today, to come through there and it's kind of flattened out.
And another example is Main Street Gardens.
Right.
Okay.
Because there were a number of buildings, there was a parking garage that had the circles on it, well, the circles would go away, and they did.
Well, they didn't go away. They live in a cart-to-cart
Yeah,
garage.
well, they were taken off the building, and what was underneath or something, nothing.
Okay.
And then, and there were other buildings that were dilapidated, and there were two buildings there that dated from the early 1900s. But the remainder of that site is new. And that is faced by Old City Park, Mercantile, that were built down
Yes.
and Tyson's.
Yes.
And the city had hired a landscape architecture firm to design the park. And when you notched out that park to save those two buildings, it really destroyed the impact of the park.
Okay.
Because right now you could stand in the middle and you could look around and there's decades of Dallas
A continuum of
history
architecture.
that you
Yes.
can see.
Yes.
And with those two buildings, as wonderful as they were, it was decided that it would be better off that park, which was the first of the series of downtown parks, it was
Yes.
more important to have that setting without
Right.
those two buildings there.
And these are agonizing decisions.
Oh, they're horrible.
And you're making, Marcel and I very well know when the decision is made to remove the structure, what that will mean for the
You
future.
don't want to do that, but sometimes.
25% of your downtown is vacant land.
Right.
And parking lots, which
Right.
I refer to as the graveyards of historic buildings.
Yes.
Because in many cases, that's what they were.
Right. Right.
And it literally, when you tear them down, takes generations for them to return in a new building form.
Right. Okay.
So,
And I also want to point out this that family worked at City Hall and New City Hall, as it was called, and Old City Hall.
yes.
Which is where UNT is, the law school is, they have a building there. And then there was also the addition where the municipal courts are. So that was all Old City Hall. And then we had the IMP building, which was dubbed New City Hall. And I remember a speaker during the city council meeting saying, it would be a shame that we will continue to still have Old City Hall, and you're talking about getting rid of New City Hall.
Yeah. I mean, and I have toured the old City Hall, and what a lovely building. It's 1911. Is it 1911?
I think 1914.
14. And having the law students there, I think is just such a great match.
Right.
With
So for people who don't, I agree, and people don't know the significance of Old City Hall, That was where the police department was, and the jail in 1963.
And who was there during that time?
Right, right. And there's pictures of people, when JFK was assassinated, all bells went off. And
Yes.
the Dallas Police Department were looking for this guy.
Yes.
And then they found him, and actually he was apprehended on suspicion of murdering the police. Tibbet, yeah.
Officer Tibbet.
And he was brought to the jail there, and they didn't realize it for an hour or two. And, and somebody said, "Hey, we're looking for this guy." Because we think he used to work at the depository, we don't know where he is, and everybody's looking for him, and scouring.
Yeah.
Northern Florida. And one of the policemen said, "Well, he's going to." And they went and got him, and he's like, "That's him, that's the guy we've been looking for."
Oh, how funny.
So it was. And as they, and there's photographs as they could, moved him from the interview room to the police department, which had 3 trailers outside, each of them with ABC, CBS, and NBC's, portable, cameras, which were the size of a small van.
Yes.
Because that was the center of the earth at that stage.
Yes, it was. Gosh, and that just melds right into I am paid being chosen to design the new city hall, and it being constructed as part of changing the image of Dallas from being the city of hate and commemorating
a future city.
A future city, and also I am paid to work with the library in Boston. Correct. Okay, I wanted to make sure I had my facts there. What a mistake that would be.
Yes.
To have that piece gone in a triangle of downtown Dallas when you're looking at the book depository, Old City Hall, New City Hall. They're all in this together, so to speak.
And there have been times, you look at 6th floor museum now, or the old book depository. There was a definite move to remove that.
Well, and there was also a definite move to remove the school book depository. When I moved to town in 1978, that was on the table.
And so was the courthouse, Old Red, at some point was a discussion.
People just, in Dallas seem to have this penchant for, trying to bury their past with wrecking balls, which is crazy, because that's our past.
Yes.
We may not like it,
but
that's
it's
our
the past. Yes, and you have, and I say you have to. It is very important to make sure that those stories are continued to be told for futures to come, and just it's part of the And I have argued with people that talk about getting rid of old buildings. Well, the county records building should have been gotten rid of, and they stripped that sucker down to
and redid it. They've done a beautiful job.
Yes, it is beautiful on the inside.
Right.
And our lovely Harrison Blair said, well, it was only $300 million to do that. And I'm like, well, it's only $329 according to your CBRE report for City Hall.
And if you dig deeper, it's a lot less than that.
It's a lot less.
It's not. They keep using the $1 billion figure, but that's totally gone.
Well, I had Saida on, and she walked through projects that have already been done, and work that could be done after hours, so staff. And it's services, it's not just staff, but also us going to our City Hall, and services not being interrupted in order for business to be done. And I've already contradicted CBRE because Linda McMahon before council, and they said they would replace everything regardless of its lifespan. And then CBRE Peter Jensen, I believe is his last name, at the town hall, Maxie Johnson said, no, we would not replace everything. The lies, the lies, the lies. And you can come for me if you want to. I really don't care. Well, knowing how Dallas has been known for being wrecking ball city and we like new and shiny things, we're supposed to be a big city. We're supposed to embrace everything that makes us us and still move into the future and make those adaptations that are needed to keep us modern and growing and attracting more to the city.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this is a little sideline, but the Majestic Theater, which is the last of Theater Row.
Yes.
When it came time for the building to be decommissioned as a theater per se, and they were going to get rid of it, the offer was to gift it to City Hall. Taking that gift, the council voted 6-5 to take. 5 people voted against taking the gift of the Majestic. So if one person had switched their vote
Right.
at the time we took the Majestic,
Right.
we would not have the Majestic. And somebody who preceded me on the council was a man by the name of Lee Simpson, who worked on Swiss Avenue and in some of the early historic districts, was there at the time. And former Mayor Strauss was on the council, and she did a big sort of, it worked on raising money, and there was, pennies from school children and so forth that got the money to repair the building and bring it up to standards. But we could have lost it, and if one person on the council had changed their vote, we would have lost it.
That's scary.
It is.
Because that lot's not even big enough to do a remarkable,
Anything.
a remarkable building.
Right,
And so
right.
you would have another, blah building downtown.
Yes.
Instead of the Majestic, which I go to.
I still go to it.
That's great. Right. So the fabric, and so we're talking about historic preservation, and it is more than just a building and preserving the building. It's preserving our history, our culture, our memories. Whether you have been there and contributed, but just perusing your city and looking at the structures and remembering your own life during that time period coming up speaks volumes to, making sure that we hang on to these things. Yes.
Can I read a
Yes,
couple
ma'am.
of special concepts that
Yes.
INK and the city decided that was important for the new city hall?
Yes, ma'am.
So one was the design should reflect Dallas's strength and resilience. The workings of the city should be transparent within the buildings. This is exemplified by the Great Court atrium, which provides an open view of city departments as you walk around that opening. Sometimes I see friends that have office and some other, and I can wave and they can wave back across the atrium, and I know they're at work. A modern light-filled spaces for city employees, because this is coming from a 1950 building preceded it, and not everybody had window spaces.
Had windows,
right.
So you didn't have light.
Right.
Which was really remarkable. So the modern light-filled spaces for the employees, and you got the atrium and the skylight. It should face the city that it governs.
Yes.
Which is why it's where it is, and it looks out to the city.
Yes.
And it looks both ways. The
I was
city,
going to
the
point
city
that
looks
out.
to it.
Yes.
To protect it, to do good governance,
Yes.
and to be a responsible city. An outdoor public space, which is, and Pay define that as, the space should that outdoor space should interface with the public space. And that cantilever does that. You know, wherever you stand on the plaza, you've got the city hall to the back. You know, and it protects you from wind and snow.
Yeah, it
rain,
provides shade.
and it provides shade. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a work facade. You know, and another interesting item was, money's always a project on construction projects. And the construction began in 1972, and the parking garages opened 2 years later. So they had dug out parking, the area that L1 and L2.
Okay.
And they rented them out while there was during construction, and that money went into the budget
Oh,
for
wow.
the project.
Wow.
Until 1978 when it opened to the public.
Wow. I also want to point out that with the open concept, that was ahead of its time.
It was, and now it's come full circle. Because if you do work, I've got architect friends all over. The modern office space, including architects and engineers' offices, is you've got open space.
Yes.
And
Open
people,
cubicles,
yeah,
everything.
yeah, low cubicles. You can talk to each other, and then
Yes.
and-
For collaboration purposes.
yeah, for collaboration
I think
purposes.
that's important for governance.
Yeah.
To literally,
You
for
want-
the right hand
yeah.
to know what the left hand is doing.
Right,
Yes,
right.
yes.
So it's, the way it was designed for its employees, is just like what you do for a new building. It's going full circle. Fewer offices and more collaboration.
Yes. So.
And if you tear that down, you're just going to recreate it someplace else.
Right. And I have not tear this building down and then come back to the taxpayers with bonds to build a new city hall. We will burn this town down. I'm sorry, and I will lead it. I will have my fire retardant suit on with a gas can and a long lighter. Okay, and Roy Williams, former constable Roy Williams, knows that if I ever get in trouble with the law, he is to escort me to Sterrett, and I will happily go.
But they're going to need to build a new one of those.
Right.
And the other alternative, if they don't build a new building, they're going to have to rent space. And God
In
knows how
perpetuity.
many
Yes.
buildings in perpetuity, and how much is that going to cost every year? It
Yes.
never goes away.
And it'll all come out of the general fund and compete
Exactly.
with your libraries and your parks and your arts and your
Right.
streets.
Yes, and seeing that we have $5 million deficit, we're cutting services, we're closing pools, we're closing libraries as it stands right now. So just imagine paying tens of thousands, millions, pardon me, of rent monthly, not yearly, monthly. What else are we going to have to give up in order to maintain our government?
Right.
That just financially it makes no
A
sense.
friend made an analogy that I really enjoy. It's like, you're in a family and your parents are in a home, in their house, and like most of us, it's got repairs that need to happen.
Yes.
And one of your brothers decides that, well, your parents don't need you need to tear down that house, and you're gonna, which they don't have a mortgage on anymore. It's free.
Yes.
And then you're going to move them to an expensive apartment that they don't have enough money to pay for, and that's how they're going to,
Yeah.
how's that effective? What's the physical responsibility there?
Right. So, historic preservation is very important. So, making sure that we are able to maintain as much of our culture and story, history, our brand in Dallas is very important. So, not to give away any secret sauce here, but where do things stand with the process on City Hall?
Well, the designation process I can respond to. So it goes to the designation committee. The designation committee has a full plate on their hands. So a group called DOCOMOMO, which stands for the Documentation and Conservation of the Modern Movement, modern buildings like City Hall. The North Texas chapter is in the process of working on the nomination.
Okay.
And then they will, a date in the future, we don't know when exactly, they will bring that back to designation.
Okay.
And ask for approval. And then the next step after that would be landmark commission and CPC.
See, and
And
then
then,
count.
and then city council.
And once it's in pre-designation,
Yes.
for 48 months, 2 years, it's essentially
2 years.
2
Yeah.
years.
2 years.
I said 24 months.
Right.
2 years. It is protected as if it
Has the landmark.
So,
Right.
so you do not have alterations, demolitions, that sort of thing.
So everyone, make sure that you are writing to all of your representatives, not just your city council person, but also everyone, every commission and board at City Hall, and tell them to do what is right in this process, move this along, be expeditious with it, and dig their heels in on saying yes to keeping our building. Okay, yes.
We agree.
You have your constituents.
Yes. So make sure, because everyone is saying, what can they do? So not just reaching out to city council members, but also making sure that we have all people involved in this process on board with keeping the icon of Dallas, keeping the brand of Dallas intact, and keeping our city hall.
Can I add to that?
Yes, ma'am.
There's a website that's got a lot of information about all of this, and it's www.saydallascityhall.com.
And you will find a number of architects' papers on there. I think there are 5 white papers. Marcel is one of the authors, along with 9 other past presidents of AIA, that will tell you a lot about the condition of the building, that sort of thing. In fact,
And up-to-date facts.
up-to-date facts, and the question about, well, how can we build a convention center, an arena, and keep City Hall? And there's actually a plan on there that shows that.
Okay, great. Especially seeing that it has been noted that we are in the billions on the convention center, and there is not a plan.
And we're cutting off streets.
There is not a plan, but we are almost $4 billion deep into that, and we're expecting the hot tax to pay for it all. Y'all are gonna stop spending money like we have an open spigot and the money is just pouring out. I digress. But ladies, thank you so much for coming on.
I'm going to make one more pitch,
Yes,
and
yes.
that is, and this is separate from City Hall. Historic preservation is important in our neighborhoods, our significant buildings, our downtown, and whatever. And right now, there's one neighborhood that's advancing forward to be a historic district,
Yes.
and that is Queen City. So I want to
Yes.
give a shout out to our
I
friends
live in Queen City.
Oh,
Do you?
Yes, I do. That is where my great grandmother's house is. I'm on Jordan Street.
okay. So
in
you'll be
Queen
signing
City.
that petition.
Yes, I supported it. I spoke in front of the Landmark Commission. Eva Jones made sure that
Oh,
I
my
was
God.
present, and I spoke.
And we all answer to Miss Eva.
Yes, and I spoke and I quoted my son saying that we have Minecraft houses infiltrating Queen City, and we no longer want that there. So, yes, and I am doing my part to make sure that the house that I have continues to be
Is part of a historic district.
of that culture.
And we want to support them the same way as we support
Yes.
City.
Yes. So, thank you again, ladies.
You're welcome.
Yes,
Thank you.
and I definitely want to continue this conversation. So make sure that you go out to SaveDallasCityHall.com. I am in constant communication with them about things that are going on in the city and with this movement, and making sure that everyone who is very passionate about this, making sure that our voices are heard. And we are keeping our landmark city government building that, again, so eloquently pointed out, being part of the culture of Old City Hall, the 6th floor museum, and the new City Hall being the last component of that triangle of a major moment in the city.
In our history.
Yes. So, again, thank you, ladies.
Thank you for having
Thank you for coming back. Yes.
Thank you.
Alrighty, guys. It's a little chilly outside, but make sure that you spend time with those that are most important to you, because life is too short. So enjoy yourself. Stay warm. Stay dry. And I'll see you next Saturday for the upcoming topic. So make sure that you follow, like, and share. Okay. See you later, guys. Bye.